Question. In all your time away from life on Earth, what did you miss most? Rachel. Long pause. Pizza. Interview at Yelahanka, April 14th, 2040. Rachel. It's so big. Rachel Stewart's first view of Earth, as she returned from 2 decades of exile, was a shock. Earth looked exactly as she pictured it. When she and her crew launched from Keanu, their near-Earth object habitat for 20 years, and currently making its own approach and preparing to go into an orbit beyond the moon, their former homeworld looked like a fat, whitish-bluish hemisphere. Rachel had learned long ago that the moon was the size of a dime, held at arm's length. In her case, on launch day, Earth from 500,000 kilometers was about the size of a quarter. Keanu and their transfer vehicle, Adventure, were approaching the planet from its southern pole, so what they saw, in the relatively few times cameras or windows were pointed earthward, was the Antarctic surrounded by ocean. To Rachel's surprise, having grown up with the threat of melting ice caps, Antarctica was still white and snow-covered. How deeply she had no way of knowing. But it was reassuring, especially as Adventure's speed increased as the vehicle flew closer, so much closer that Rachel revised flew to fell, since that's what they seemed to be doing. The only response to Rachel's comment came from Zeds, the sentry pilot, in his Hindi-tinged English. I thought human childhood habitats looked small when revisited. That's what happens when you raise aliens as if they were human, Rachel thought. They grow up just as argumentative as their two-armed cousins. The sarcasm was apparent, even through Zed's environment suit. It was odd for Rachel to know that Adventure had originally been built by and for sentries, but the sentry pilot was the one forced to wear a suit. Shut up and land this thing, Pav said. That was her husband, Pav Radhakrishnan. Now 36 by Earth's calendar, he had grown stolid and confident, while still, in stressful moments, capable of acting like a hot-headed teen male. Daddy! That was their daughter, Yavi, 14, speaking from her couch, slightly behind Rachel's left shoulder, sparing Rachel the wifely duty of correcting her husband, a job she never liked and wasn't good at. There were actually 6 in Adventure's cockpit, Rachel and Pav and Yavi, Zeds the pilot, plus Xavier Touton and Sanjay Bhatt. The latter two, like Rachel and Pav, were members of the original HBs, the Houston Bangalores, who had been scooped off planet Earth 20 years back and transported to Keanu. Xavier came from Houston. He had been the HB's scrounger and jack of every trade for 2 decades. Never shy, he grunted and said, "Let's just do it the way we practiced." Sanjay, on the other hand, was one of the quieter members of the Bangalore crew. Rachel hadn't even known his name until at least a year after their arrival on Keanu. Granted, there were more than 180 people to meet and get to know in those days, after humans expelled the Reivers from Keanu. But in the confines of the human habitat, it wasn't as though Sanjay could easily escape attention. But he had. Nevertheless, he had proven himself to be one of the masters of the Proteus, Keanu's 3D printing and fabrication system, the nearly magic architect technology that allowed humans to A. Get rid of the Reivers, B. Make supplies and equipment, and, ultimately, C. Turn themselves into the galaxy's smallest spacefaring civilization. If anyone could take credit for the design, construction, and operation of Adventure, it was Sanjay. Entry interface, Sanjay said. Adventure began bumping at just that moment, much like an airplane hitting turbulence. As her mother, Megan, had reached for her hand during flights across the Rockies and into Houston on horrible stormy afternoons, Rachel reached for her daughter's. She had faith in Adventure. As much faith as anyone could place in a machine that was several thousand years old and built by a race of sentient aquatics on a world far, far away. It was, when she looked back, a crazy challenge. outfitting an ancient spaceship preserved in vacuum for centuries. How do you do that?